Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Finance and Governance, Weymouth Town Council on the 1st of February 2023. Welcome to those in the room and welcome to committee members. Not quite such a quick agenda today, so I have an ambition to finish by 9 o'clock, please. Please bear that in mind when you're meeting. And welcome to those who are watching on YouTube. Do we have any apologies, please?
Yeah, there's one for Councillor Kate Weller and Councillor Lucy Hamilton.
Right, thank you. And no substitutions. And members, can we just have a vote on those apologies, please? All those in favour? Vote on second and first. Councillor Hope and Councillor Frost, seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest?
And none of them.
No dispensations have been requested.
Any committee members presently? No. Okay, thank you. And minutes of the last meeting. You will notice you've been sent 2 sets of minutes. That's because at the previous meeting we got so excited about the budget that we forgot to take a vote on those. So there are 2 sets of minutes for you to vote on. Anybody got any amendments to those? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Dickinson and Councillor Dickinson is seconded. All those in favour?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't there.
1 abstention. Thank you very much. Okay, item 5 is Councillor Questions. Do we have any pre-notified?
No.
Councillor Hope.
Sorry, Chair, yeah, a bit late, just declarations of interest. Can I make a non-pecuniary interest, please?
You can.
In the Nest application. Western Community Group has previously financially supported them. I'm a member of Western Community Group.
Okay, duly noted. Anybody else got any declarations of interest? No. Okay. Item 5, Councillor Questions, is none pre-notified. Do any committee members want to make any statements at this time?
Can I just say I gather that Councillor Killing Brooks is going to drive to Ukraine. Is that right? I believe.
Yes, I saw that on Facebook. Do you want to
Yeah.
say anything about that? What we've got the opportunity? I was looking at you, Councillor Hope, because you posted it on Facebook. So.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Councillors may be aware, and members of the public, but one of our councillors, Councillor Kevin Brooks, in his capacity of a lion, Weymouth Lions Club, will be driving to Ukraine tomorrow morning to deliver supplies and items that are needed by the people of Ukraine. He's doing that on behalf of Weymouth Lions Club, and anyone that wishes to support him, there is a GoFundMe page that's on our Facebook page.
Thank you, Councillor. Item 6, public questions. I think we've got a few grant application members of the public here, but any other members of the public want to make any statements or ask any questions at this time other than what's on the agenda? Yeah, okay. So, members, we are into item 8, which is grant applications. I'm going to ask Ian Bill, Deputy Town Clerk, to introduce. I think we have 4 grant applications this evening.
I think we might have members of the grant policy, Chair.
Oh, yes. Sorry, item 7. I was getting ahead of myself.
And just to be hopefully very quick. Members will recall at the last meeting, the grant policy, there were some amendments around churches and school buildings. Members sought clarification on what was meant by churches and schools, because there's different legislation relating specifically to those and what grants that we can actually give to those organisations. So within the agenda, you'll see that the clarification has been given so that schools include colleges and academies that receive central government or principal grant funding, and religious buildings church is actually refers to all religious buildings, so it's just that clarification, Chair. Members saw.
Can I recommend a vote here, please?
Yes, councillor Dickinson. Seconded by councillor Watley. All those in favour? If you remember, members, that was a conversation born out of councillor Hamilton's proposal around subsidies for school meals, and we needed to clarify that, so I thank you for doing that. So now we are on item 8, which is grant applications, and Deputy Town Clerk to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. We've got 4 applications tonight. We'll go through those in turn. Just to let members know that budget monitoring is the next item. We've got £11,228 left remaining within the budget. These 4 grant applications will take us for about £500, just above that, Chair. Just bear that in mind. We'll go through these.
£500.
And the first one is application is for Weymouth East County. We've got a request for an application amount of £3,000 for purchase and installation of the new kitchen equipment.
Do we have somebody here from the Weymouth Scout Group? Yes. Would you like to say a few words?
So Scout Group itself, we came out of COVID with absolutely no Cub Scouts and Beavers, which a lot of most of the groups in Weymouth before do exactly the same. And last year we managed to bring back in nearly 52 children. But our building is really old, over 100 years old, and needs complete renovation at some point. But our kitchen is in desperate need of being repaired. At the moment, it's basically out of action. We have a lot of groups coming in during the day now to support the upkeep of the hall. We have dance groups and the NHS coming in and supporting. It's the amount of money we get from the actual Beavers, Cubs and Scouts throughout the year doesn't really fund anything. It's fund on the building. Everything else we have to fund ourselves through what we need to get really.
Thank you. Welcome to the meeting. Members, anybody like to make some comments? Councillor Legg.
Good. It's not working, is it?
Sure, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to ask a question that you're going to fund a purchase and install a new kitchen, and you're asking for £3,000, which happens to be a nice round number. How much is that new kitchen costing?
So actually, we've been quoted, I did actually send the quote in, we've been quoted £3,999, which the big scheme of things I've looked at is actually quite cheap. I've installed as well.
So it's cheaper than you expected. Your grant application going to be reduced?
Our grant application for 3,000, this kitchen's 3,900.
Okay, all right.
So just like a question, do you have measures in place to fund the rest of that?
We had a donation from Sutton Point Street Band this year, £300, trying to go towards it as well. So yeah, we'll have to make up the match for the rest. Someone in the group.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other members? Councillor Dickinson.
I think this is a very good cause, Chair. If they've got 3,300, I'd like to propose to make it up to the difference. I think this is a very worthwhile cause. It's supporting our young people. I think the outbreak is very important. Sending children being supported on this. I think looking through the other grants, I think there's some scope for slight tweaking there. Well, that's £600,000. Still.
Sorry, Councillor, I didn't hear that.
So what they're saying is you've got a £300 donation, which takes to 300, and you've got a quote for 39, so you need another £600.
Yeah. So you want to increase it by 600, don't you propose?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Any other members? So we've got an amendment to the amount there, so that's a counter proposal from Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Allen.
Thank you very much, Chair. I couldn't support the amendment, bearing in mind there's other applications to be discussed that are on equally good merit. And I think, we need to be cautious of just jumping that, because there are plenty of other organisations out there that could make that additional £600. There's local service clubs that have got funding for these sorts of activities. And, you know, I do believe in organisations fundraising for themselves. And I know the Scouts are very good at fundraising. I've worked with the Scouts up in Wyke. The groups escaping there, but I know that they support local events and get donations back to support their running. So I would actually not agree with the amendment to go to the 3,600, and you know, really look to the Scouts to make that additional fundraising up themselves or look for alternative funds.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Legg.
I think Councillor Hope has said almost exactly how I feel. It helps to leave at least a little bit left for their own individual fundraising, especially with council club groups who do indeed do quite a bit of that. And therefore, I think to give them all of it from two grants. One is the sub points fair, and the other one would be ourselves. I think going to give the message that we will fund everything. And I think I'd like to encourage them to find someone for themselves. So I oppose the amendment.
Okay, Councillor Dickinson.
Well, I'll support the amendment. Myself and Richard spoke about this earlier. They have got, the hall needs a lot more work and they're starting with the kitchen. So I'd like to see them getting the extra money so they can concentrate their funds on altering the kitchen, getting that up to standard, and then moving forward on the rest of the building.
Okay, we're going to take the vote on the amendment in a minute. I've just got a couple of questions. One for me was, when I'm looking through these, I look at two things. One is, it was a bit weak in terms of other people that were contributing, the sort of point that Councillor Legg made, and I think I felt slightly uneasy about that. And the second thing is, when we're looking at these grants and dishing out taxpayers' money, I always look for value for money, and won't be a popular view, but 54 children equals £3,000. I know it's, I look at that and I look at other grants or grant applications that we have, it doesn't look value for me. I get the point about looking forward. The question I had though was, do you benefit in any way from the hall hire money? So you do have some other income that comes in.
So all hire money basically pays for the upkeep of the hall, and it's rent, and it's electricity bill.
Right.
Yeah. It's turns over every year, enough to keep the building going.
Tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we do have a brownie group that goes in there as well once a week.
Okay.
They utilise it as well.
Thank you. We're going to go to the vote on this. Proposed by Councillor Nicholson, seconded by Councillor Dickinson, for an amended amount, members, at £3,600. All those in favour? 2. All those against? 6, 8, 7, 8. Yes, 8. So that falls back to the original proposal on the grants. Anybody like to propose the original amount? Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Legg. So this is back to the original £3,000 they asked for. All those in favour? Unanimous. You have the £3,000, a little bit to catch up on. Always next year.
And other projects.
Other projects, yeah.
Actually, fundraising has been really,
Yes, I can agree with that.
it's
It's
not a lot you can do it like.
well, congratulations. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the dynamic meeting. I'm sure you've got other things to do, but you can stay if you wish. Okay. Second application is no thoughts. Yes. Yeah, no thought.
Which is Chair for this is in respect of the young people's take over Nothe project, which is the first step to make the Nothe relevant to the younger people of Weymouth. I believe Councillor hopefully had some words on this one. Apologies if I made that on.
By facial expression.
I had an email asking me to support it.
Any members want to comment on this application from the no thoughts? Councillor Harris.
I'm wondering if we approve the request, whether we can put a condition on it that they involve the youth council in actually developing their ideas.
I think that there is a mention somewhere in here about looking forward to working with the youth council, so okay, we can put our conditions we want on. In fact,
I'd like to
propose
insist
that.
that they do.
It does mention it,
He does, yeah.
along with Weymouth Town Council.
Yes, we'll take it as an amendment, we'll take it as read, but we'll encourage them to talk to the youth council. I think it's a good thing to get involved in. Anybody else got any other questions? Councillor Hope.
No, but just on Ian's point, Marianne did speak to me on this, and I think, you know, this is a very good project. It gets our young people active in our community. It makes the most of the Nothe and it opens it up to a different clientele. So I would just like to urge members to support the application.
I've just got one thing to make members aware of, and that is from a grant policy point of view, whilst we have broken this policy, we don't generally give funds out to support revenue costs. If you read the application there, it's talking about staff wages, and we have broken that rule several times during COVID and post-COVID, so it's not a great deal of money, but just be aware that it is slightly against the policy. Councillor Hope.
Just on that point, Chair, they're not asking for the full cost of the project. They're not. So £1,000 you could stipulate in the application was for the artist, towards the artist cost, which are £1,600. That would then get us down the policy implications.
Let's not be pedantic.
No, but maybe be consistent with our own policy. Maybe please be consistent with our own policy, and therefore I endorse that caveat, if you like, that goes on it if we approve.
Thank you, Councillor Logan. Go through the chair.
Who?
Anybody else? Can I have a proposal for this, Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Frost? This is for £800 for the Nothe. This is towards the youth takeover. All those in favour? The next one is for the Nest, Weymouth CIC. Ian, do you want to, we have somebody from the Nest here? Please come forward, yes.
Yes, thank you. If I could just take this opportunity, just in case anyone here doesn't know what a Nest is, I'm sure you probably all do. Let me just give you a brief resume. We all know what a food bank is, and we've had a food bank in Weymouth since 2011, and they food banks cater for people who are classed as severely food insecure. And in Weymouth and Portland, there's roughly 2,000 people. But there are 8,000 people who are classed as just food insecure, who don't get access to a food bank, but can't afford to put good food and meals on the table. And so Weymouth didn't have, in many cases, what's called a social supermarket, but we call it a community shop, for people who can actually afford a small amount of money. And basically how it works is that we purchase waste food that is surplus to requirements in the supermarket, badly packaged or not able to be transferred from the manufacturer to the supermarket shelf. And we make that available to people on universal credit, pension credit, tax credit, free school meal families. And basically in Weymouth, they can come and buy 10 items off the shelf for £4. If you're a family, 15 items off the shelf for £6, and you get free fruit, free veg, and free bread. And we opened 2 years ago up Abbotsbury Road at the Waverley, and we opened a second shop in Littlemore last April. We have at the moment around about 1,200 members in Weymouth and Portland who don't all shop, you'll be pleased to hear, every week. But we're getting an increased number of shoppers And also part of the vision was not just to make that food available, but was actually to create also a community type centre. And we were really blessed by having the Waverley offered to us, and where we have a room at the back for the shop, and we use the cafe, and the cafe is a community cafe, but it operates in a slightly different way. If we're an ordinary member of the public like me, then you can go in and you can get your lunch for £3, £3.50, and you'll get a quality coffee for £2. But if you're a Nest member, then you get your lunch for about £1.20, and you get your coffee for 50p. And roughly 2/3 of the people who use the cafe are Nest members. We also have a pay it forward scheme for people who can afford to put some money in the pot to help those who aren't as well off. And it's been a remarkable 2 years, 2 and a bit years, to see what's happened in Weymouth and how it gives people dignity when they can come in and actually shop and choose their items off the shelf. So what we're asking for is a subsidy to help us subsidise those people who actually get their meal at a loss for us of probably £3 every time a Nest member shops. So we're trying to help these people who have a very restricted income. And believe it or not, there are people who are members who work and have an income, but they still struggle to put food on the table. So if you didn't know what the Nest is, you do now, and hopefully you'll be able to support this project.
Thank you for your words. Members? Anybody? Councillor Lick, followed by Councillor Hope and Councillor Lambert.
When I read this earlier on, I came up with the idea that, hang on, this is revenue again. This is recurring every year, and it's not actually within our remit, as we say. And that caused me a problem because in principle, I'd like to support it. And we found a way around the last one. Can we find a way around this one?
Possibly. We have supported the Nest before in previous years, and one of the things that struck me reading it was the long list of donations, and they're very good at garnering support, and it's a credit to them. Councillor Hope, followed by Councillor Lambert.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just going to start with a comment that hearing them speak always reminds me of school assemblies, and I'm sure there's a few others in the room that will also feel that way. I'd just like to speak in support of the application. We quite often sit here as a collective group thinking, how can we support our most vulnerable residents and reach out to, especially with the cost of living crisis. And I think before us, members, we have the answer. It's the Nest. And I think Neil did an excellent explanation of the Nest, given his enthusiasm and support for the project. And I would also, as well as this application, which I hope members will support, I really encourage all of you to spread the word of the Nest amongst your residents and people you know that may need support, because the Nest is a fantastic service that's there to help.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lambert.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Much of what I wanted to say has been said. I've been very much supportive of the Nest throughout. Tumble down food has been going along to the Nest as well when we've had excess. It's an excellent organisation and greatly appreciated by those who make use of the services. So I'd encourage all to support it. And I'm sure we can't find a way around it. I think given the cost of living crisis that so many families are facing, then we could make this an exception if necessary.
Well, the policy does allow for this. I'm going to ask the Deputy Town Clerk to read out what it says in the policy so that you're clear about what you're voting for. But the exception exists under Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Members will see behind me, I put up the paragraph, which is part of the grant application form, which states grants will not normally be made for ongoing running costs. But where an application is for running costs, the applicant should detail the plans to find future running costs from alternative sources. And where grants for running costs are made, no guarantee of future funding is applied.
So you can vote for this based on the policy, as long as the recipient understands that it's not an ongoing support, it's supporting costs and encouraging them to look for alternatives in the future. We last supported the Nest, I think, in 2020, 2021, so they haven't been back in the last year. So, any other questions from members looking for a proposer for this? Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Lambert. All those in favour? Congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed.
Again, you can stay or
So that's fine. We've got what we wanted, we're off. Thank you.
Honestly, don't get that in this chamber very often.
I was just thinking some mark of the Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
Welcome. Last one, that's Dan Clark.
Thank you, Chair. This is in respect of the Weymouth area development trust, the ICD bid for a grant in terms of rent for the next 3 years. I believe Chris is
Here, evening, Chris.
you may want to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you. I think most councillors are aware of the Weymouth information shop now. Seafront kindly opened it last May. In fact, we have had some councillors come in to find information for their residents. So I know it's been well used. We've supplied you with part of the draft of the first executive report. We were so successful in raising funds for the pilot that we have managed to extend it beyond the 6 months that we originally had anticipated. And you'll see from the figures it's been extremely well used. Over the year, the average is about 50%. We can't guarantee what people want when they come to the door, which is half the funds and volunteers and staff. But just to give councillors a flavour of the things I've been on, they've ranged from this week a homeless young man who was trying to work out exactly where he needed to be and who he needed to see and felt he'd been moved from pillar to post, and we made an appointment with him for the first point. I had a lady come in who needed to have a photocopy of a medical letter because she needed to prove her medical status to someone who doesn't have a photocopier at home, so we did that for her. We have a regular request for bus timetable. It's our bestseller in terms of leaflets. And then we had this week we've had two sets of people who have actually recently moved to Weymouth. And then they've come into the information shop to find out what's on what community organisations there are. In fact, one of these couples came last week and is already now on the research team for Tudor House. So it's been, people have been able to volunteer and actually get the volunteering opportunities. We found ourselves though, we're getting to the end of the pilot in March. The landlord has offered the opportunity to extend for 12 months. However, the major funders that have verbally talked about supporting this, their processes don't kick in until June and August. So we are in a situation of we've raised 15,000 towards the 20,000 that we need to secure for the 12 months event to continue. So we have been asking for 5,000. We understand that the Weymouth Information Shop has also been discussed in the Services Committee around the visitor information side of what we do. But we're actually applying from the point of view of this is a community facility at the moment. We wouldn't want to be in a situation of having to close the end of March when we're actually looking to how that works in the future and the possibility of partnering with Weymouth Town Council. I understand it's one of the options that came up on the list during the meetings. So we're sort of caught between the two. We've done as advised.
Thank you, Chris. Members, sort of floor. Councillor Dickinson.
Yeah, I'm very supportive about the shop. And what concerns me is this. Age UK is a charity, a national charity. What negotiations have you had around this rent? Because they want 25,500 per year for this. Otherwise, they're going to close it. What are they going to do with it then? They'll just leave it empty. It's for 3 years, which will take us over the end of this council. And I'm always a bit dubious about committing future expenditure at the councils. And to me, this is actually running costs to keep it open. Now, I say I don't know what negotiations you've had with the Age UK, but I think there's some scope there for Age UK to look again at this rent. Because what are they going to do with it? They're just going to leave it empty. So whilst I can understand, you know, this 5,000 per year, I'm unhappy about committing ourselves to 3 years, and I'm unhappy about supporting a charity because I thought in the policy it said that we didn't support national charities, which is what this is. So I think that somebody needs to go back to Age UK with a rather stronger approach to this and say, yeah, we want to, you know, we wanted to negotiate on this rent. Because all we're doing is giving another charity, you know, running costs to Age UK. So I'm unhappy about this because I say it's the end of the day, it's running costs. It's just running costs for a shop, which I've got nothing against the shop, but I don't like the way that Age UK are handling this, frankly.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. I'll take councillors and I'll come back to you guys. Okay. Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Yes. The question that I've got for you is whether, because you're a CIC, I believe that shops can have 0 business rates if they let them to a charity. But I don't think that's the same if they let it to a CIC. So is the shop having to pay business rates when it changes over and doesn't belong to a lease to Age Concerned, but is a lease to WADT? And to talk about the 3-year situation, I would just like to suggest that there should be a clause, if we agree this, that says if by any chance the shop is removed from the offer, then so the grant will change as well. So there should be a break clause that this is specifically to support the shop staying there, and if the shop isn't there, then maybe we don't have to commit ourselves to 3 years.
Councillor Watley, and I'll come back to you, Chris. Councillor Watley. Just talk about it.
No. I think I agree with Councillor Dickinson because we are paying rent to Age UK. They've got another shop somewhere, haven't they?
Not sure actually, Councillor. I know they just closed the one in Dorchester.
Have they found that it's not viable to have their shop in Weymouth and are now happy to?
Yeah, let's not speculate about what Age UK strategy is.
I'm a bit worried that, you know, we might be paying a national charity.
Okay. Chris, would you like to come back in?
Yeah, there's just 2 things. I mean, I obviously wasn't clear, so I apologise for that. Age UK do not own the shop. Age UK have had a 3-year lease, and their lease comes to an end in the end of March. So we are not paying Age UK. The Development Trust has been offered the opportunity to reassign the lease for 12 months so that we can continue to get the fundraising to take it further forward. So it's not to Age UK. And just as a point on Age UK strategy, they're not a national charity anymore. They have been split into various smaller charities. So it's actually fully Age UK, North, South, West, Dorset. So they're not a.
Can I ask if there is the landlord then?
The landlord is a gentleman who's based in Bath, is a private landlord. So that's, so
So have you done, have you been in negotiation with this gentleman? Because
yes, we've been in negotiation with this gentleman. It's been marketed above the amount that he's actually asking us in terms of rent. So
But he hasn't got another tenant as far as we know.
not as far as I know. So far, but that's, it's been marketed from the 1st of April because we can't assure him that.
Anybody else before I have?
Sorry, the
Harris's points, yeah.
So within CICs, there are two types of CIC, and if it's established within the governance, it is a not-for-profit, which we are, a not-for-profit, then we can still get the business rates allowance as a not-for-profit when it comes to that. I hope that answers the question. It does come under discretionary rather than mandatory, but it does.
Councillor
Thank you very much, Chair. A couple of questions I'm hoping Chris can answer. So I'm looking at your sources of income. At the moment, you've got £15,000. I don't see within your list there Dorset Council. Do they not support you financially? Because I'm assuming you probably give a lot of information out on Dorset Council services and support. Yeah, and also I see that there is multiple blank lines on sources of income that you've yet to hear back from, including the National Lottery, We Are Weymouth, which I understand is vote dependent, but they still do have a budget and are looking to spend that budget this year. So I was informed by an officer when we were looking at a potential event in September that is out of their potential term. So I'm just wondering, there's a couple of open applications here, on how you're feeling about those. Second point, if I can, I'm glad you brought up the services committee discussion, because I'm hoping that officers will be approaching you soon to see alternative ways of working that could be cheaper than £20,000 shop rent. And for that reason, I don't think I could look at a 3-year agreement, but that potentially could be supportive at least 1 year until the discussion of the services provision with TICs has come to an end.
Thank you, Councillor Hope. Really stole my thunder there before I.
Can I just be clear on this question of the landlord? Age UK's tenancy comes to the end at the end of March, so their liability finishes. So they're not in a position to extend the lease because their lease finishes. So what you're saying is that the present landlord, this gentleman in Bath, has said you can have it for 3 years or 12 months, as long as you can guarantee the rent by the end of January or near to.
Yeah, so he's asked us to show that we can cover the rent for the next 12 months. And we've negotiated that 12 months down to 3 years. And a 6-month break for just to try and.
So we don't really need to go into a 3-year agreement on this because.
No, so the council, I can only go on what I'm advised by council officers. Council officers advised me to use the community grant form to put that in, but be aware that there was a possibility of a service level agreement instead. Hence, on the application, I think it said community grant / service level agreement. There is no service level agreement form that exists yet for that to go through. So I can only go on what council officers asked me to do. So that's.
I mean, on that basis, personally, I'd be happy to maybe agree to a 12-month.
Amendments coming, Councillor Nickinson, if I can get my questions off. So, Chris, Councillor Hope.
Can I have an answer to my question, please, Chair?
Which was,
The additional funding sources that are yet confirmed, how much was requested and what's the likelihood of achievement, Dorset Council being included? And second point, that was the only question the employment.
future sources of funding was the question.
There were two things. One of the things that's not listed is that the staffing is done by volunteers, but also by staff that are donated from partners. And Dorset Council has donated children's services staff, like they go in and they actually do some training, but there isn't a monetary value attached to that. The Dorset Council officers have advised us that we could go for the shared prosperity fund, which has already been confirmed that they've got that. However, they haven't decided what the process will be for the application for that, and we won't be able to apply for that until they have decided what their process is, which will be July, apparently, from Helen Heath and Dorset Council. So it might take that long before they've got the application process in place. So that's why the line is blank. So we are Weymouth. I'm delighted to hear what you said, because I've been told by Dawn Mongo that they are not making any decisions about project funding until after power. So if you know something different, I would be delighted to hold outside this meeting.
I would speak your information from them, maybe we can speak on this.
The funding in the September.
Chris, I'm not sure I can support the 3 years either. I've just got a couple of questions. One is guaranteeing future sources of income. I feel uncomfortable us committing 3 years when other people haven't. And that also straddles a new iteration of council as well. And I feel like Councillor Nicholson, as chair of this committee, I'm loath to commit the council to funding that new members might vote on. So I'll come to the amendment in a minute. Second point for me would be, we are in discussions at the moment about TIC provision, and I'm again loath to commit to 3 years when that discussion might mean that we end up in some sort of collaboration or partnership in some way to service that provision. I don't know what that's going to look like, or even if it will exist, but having our hands tied on sort of 3 years of funding ahead of that doesn't feel right. My last point, I'm not entirely 100% convinced myself, but the policy says only in very exceptional circumstances do we allocate £5,000. And I've read the policy again a minute ago, and I'm not sure it fits. So the maximum, if it's a normal application, is 3,000. It does mention the word vulnerable, and I suppose you could say the shop is vulnerable to closure. So thinking on my bit, I'm going to propose an amendment to this, which says we will vote on £5,000 for 1 year, pending, for Chris's benefit, pending if she wants to come back next year with I've secured funding for another 2 years. I think we can have the same conversation at a future time next year, in the light of having a discussion about TIC that we've made up in mind about what we're going to do or not. That might have a clearer picture, and you can bring that back to this committee and we can vote again. So my amendment to the policy is, to the application is for 1 year. I think because it is a threat of closure and the funding gap is 5,000, I'll go with that. So that's my proposal. If I can look for a seconder. Councillor Huckle, all those in favour?
Chair, can I just mention that I think in that case, I would suggest you don't sign a lease with this gentleman for more than 1 year, because, you know, you go back to him again, he might. Sorry.
They've got a 6 month break though.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
all those in favour
Of the amendment.
of the amendment, yes. Does that become a substantive? Yeah, that becomes a substantive motion, so we don't need to vote on the original.
I think it's a procedure,
No.
if you do.
Yeah. Councillor Legg, I'm getting advice from the officers here, so.
Oh, you still disagree with that?
That now becomes a substantive, which you then.
Thank you, Councillor Legg. Apologies. Should I teach Granny to start games? Well, the First World War amendment was next to the policy when you
Oh, I mean, you get back sometime tonight.
So, sorry, Chair, just in your defence there was no proposal on the table to make an amendment. You proposed £3,000, not amended. So the vote we took was for £3,000.
No, it was 5, I said 5.
Sorry, yeah, 5 and on a 1 year thing. There was no other proposal on the table. So yours is a substantive. We have already voted on that.
Can I get some?
I'd be very happy, Chair, just to vote on the substantive as it stands, and then we can move on to the next item.
Right. Proposed by Councillor Hope, seconded by Councillor Harris. All those in favour of the substantive That is unanimous. Chris, secure for the next 12 months.
Thank you very much.
And I'll come and have a chat about TICs at some point. That brings to an end, members, item 8. We're now into Q3 finance update. And I'm going to ask the Deputy Town Clerk to introduce.
Yeah, I will keep this introduction brief. Members will have the financial monthly report for Q3. We members will see that we are predicting a favourable variance at the year end of 23,000. From an officer perspective, I think that we are quite pleased with that, considering that we've had to absorb a higher than expected payables, which is agreed nationally. And there have been some one-off costs throughout the year as a result of coming back to the offices after the lockdown. And these have been absorbed as well. So I won't go into too much detail now, but obviously there's questions that members have. Then we will answer them. But if not, then obviously we just ask you for the capital degree, Q3 finance report to.
Just my usual code, that's 15 quarters in a row where we've come in on or under budget. On schedule, notice that we've got some challenges. You've seen the water bill for the toilet, which is monumental. That's in 40,000. So those sorts of costs, which we did provision for. So we've got some challenges for sure. So questions, members. Any particular questions? Oh, okay. Just draw your attention to a couple of things. Once again, thanks to the finance team, but you've seen the interest that we're currently earning. So probably the only benefit from inflation is interest rates for investments go up. So every pound we earn in interest is £1 we don't have to ask residents for. So we're standing start in 3 years. We're bringing in £13,000 worth of interest per annum, and that's set to continue with the Deputy Town Clerk's stewardship of moving money around investment accounts to try and maximise that. We've also got some challenges around income, so getting away from that, we've been pushed back on several occasions through services on some of the initiatives that have come through, which they've voted against, which has knocked us back a bit. We've got another one coming through this committee tonight. So we are searching for ways to keep the income going, but it's becoming ever more difficult. But we're in good shape. Excellent.
With regards to the 40,000 water bill, we now have a project officer, I believe. Obviously, some of it perhaps should go through services. Did we not look at capturing the rainwater off the roofs and that, so that it could be used for flushing? And that way we might lower the bill, but there would be an initial cost.
I'm going to ask Councillor Hope too, because I was at services where they talked about water monitors and stuff. I mean, it's a good idea. I don't know whether we're capturing the sun. We just want to see if there's a liability on rainwater. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. I don't know how much I can give information on the response to capturing rainwater to use as toilet provision. But just on the toilets there, where that overspend is indicated, we do have a scrutiny working group currently on toilet provision costs and operating, which we'll be reporting back in the near future to services. So some of their actions may help fulfill any budgetary requirements.
Can we just ask that working group consider Councillor Dickinson's issue? Can we have that working group? Yeah. I know the working group's working on, because I've been asked a few questions around charging and what we're getting through solar. And it's that cost, that the public convenience cost is rising at a rapid rate. You know, the staffing costs and also the operating costs.
Yeah. Did they not agree a reduced opening hours with the toilets?
It's with the working group at the moment. They're coming back through services.
So that could help.
I hope so, because it's baked into the budget. Okay. Any other questions? The recommendation. Right, anybody else, no questions?
The recommendation, Chair, is that councillors agree to recommend the quarterly finance report for the period ending the 31st of December 2022 to full council.
Moved by councillor Dickinson, seconded by councillor Nicholson. All those in favour? Well done to the committee. Unanimous. We're nearly in the bag this year, so given the pay rises that we've had to absorb, I think that's a really good one. Right. Item 10 is the risk management and the internal controls bit, and I'll ask Deputy Town Clerk to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall this is a report which comes to committee every year as a legal requirement. Full council ultimately just needs to agree the corporate risk register. There are a few increases, or officers have seen increases in risk at the present moment in time, and they are around staff wellbeing, loss of staff capacity, and lack of effective management, and that is based on the processes which are going on now about reviewing the staff structure. Also, we've highlighted, and the chair alluded to it a couple of minutes ago, loss of income. There are risks, we believe, that it is more difficult to get to the level of income which we budgeted for, but officers will obviously work hard to ensure that they do. And there's one red risk within there, which it relates to cyber security. We do get attacks on our systems, so we know that the likelihood is pretty high. We have intercepted them so far, but members will be aware that the cyber people are getting more and more sophisticated in what they are doing. So we maintain that in red, Chair. Members will understand that there is an element of personal choice of where they put these on the scale and the risk, how high up they go, and officers, we disagree, but ultimately becomes a consensus. Members may have some different views of where they see some of these risks in terms of where they are in terms of amber, green or red, but ultimately it's a live document, and if members have any other risks they would like us to add, or they can come to officers at any time and ask us to review any specific risks that they believe could be looked at any time during the year.
Brilliant. You've seen from the Q3 results as well that we don't spend on IT provision, and that was deliberate. We need to beef it up. Councillor Dickinson.
I've read the report about working from home, and one of their big concerns is cyber attacks, because home security on your own computer software won't be as good as what yours is here. So one of the things that they said that is important is that firms who allow home working realise this, that there is a risk, a higher risk to working from home due to being attacked by cyber.
Yeah, so we work with our IT support provider to ensure that we have as good encryption and firewalls within those we can. All of our systems are Office 365 based, so they're cloud based with a security around those, so we haven't got any servers on site which could be cause issues by taking the point of people's security at home. And the biggest risk project is to we found in terms of cyber attacks is email address now, because if you have an email address which is finance@weymouth.uk and it says invoice, we have those all the time, and it just takes one click to kick a virus into motion. So we are aware of those things. We're doing everything we can to try and protect the council.
Yeah, it's just a point I've made before around the question of members. All members are using their own equipment rather than council supply equipment, and we have no control over what what software or what antivirus software we have on that equipment. It's just a thought that, you know, should we not be trying to establish some sort of system whereby everybody is on the same, on the same sort of equipment that we can monitor and make sure. I believe as Dorset Council's equipment is covered by, I believe, the same type of antivirus software, because it's all the same equipment, whereas we're using it on tablets and God knows what. I think there's a real risk here.
Yes, we've had many discussions about this in terms of providing IT hardware for members. I think it's a question that probably needs to come before somebody needs to write a paper, and it needs to come before council, because that's a considerable cost. I think where I am at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, but our IT provider will provide support to councillors if they get viruses on their own machines. The council will pick the bill up for that, but we'll take it outside the meeting. But I think probably if members are minded, need to bring forward some sort of cost proposal for members to, if we're going to fund not the Dorset Council dual matters, but the rest, some sort of IT provision, it needs to come forward because it's a considerable expense. Sympathetic to that, I think.
Can I also mention that Dorset Council give training on scams and that sort of thing? I'm not sure that we do we? So they do it regularly, about every month I get a questionnaire, I think.
Yeah, I do as well. Yes. There was that Professor Nutty bloke,
Fishing, yeah.
Fishing, yeah.
But it might be worth looking to see whether tutorials for Weymouth Town Councillors would be in order.
Shall we?
We've recently appointed a new business manager, Lisa, who's sat at the back of the room, and she's there smiling at me because I know that is on her list of things to do, is training and development of councillors and staff.
So, Greg, can we capture that point about from Councillor Legg about provision for training, security training particularly, but training in general for members around hardware? Good point. I've got a couple of things to say about, this is a really good document. It's developing over the next 3 years. We've got 5 that are improving, 3 that have gone down. I'd like to ask on item 5, under actions, whether we can put succession planning and development opportunities for officers in the actions. And I'd also like to request, because we only see this once a year, I'd also like to request that the actions on this sheet come for a 6-monthly review to this committee, so that we as members know that officers have action things that in the risk register. Okay, be okay with that. It's just a good document, but we need to be mindful. The proposal was. Yes, so can I make a proposal for this, please? Councillor Nicholson, seconded by Councillor Legg. All those in favour, risk register. Goes to full council. That is okay. Item 11 is the asset register.
Thank you, Chair. This might be the last one that I'm introducing you, will be pleased to know. So, the asset register is something that as a town and parish council need to approve every year. There's a couple of things which I'd just like to raise on it. I'm hoping, Chair, that we won't need to get into a debate of each of these individual items within there. We may agree that the working group starts to meet again with a remit to having a look at some of the assets. I know Shane Smythe, who's doing the report to come to all members of the committee in March in respect of the maintenance, would value a meeting with that working group before it comes, just laying all the background and the information around it.
Well, I'd recommend that from a risk review. I think it needs to come to the working group on the cost base and that they recommend to this committee.
And the officers are currently busy plotting the information onto Parish Online, which is due to be completed by the end of March, which layers all of the assets of various types, which allows us to know where all of our assets are. And we are looking to try and enhance that functionality, which allows people to report damage through the bins. And I would probably suggest, Chair, when we get that up and running, Bishop May doesn't keep it at the table, that we maybe give members a demonstration of that before a future energy committee, just so you can see what that looks like and how that works.
What figure there? Oh, I see, reporting.
But what we're asking, Chair, at this present moment in time is just for members to recognise that this is our asset register. It does include a lot of information, and we would just want it, like it to be recommended to council.
Any questions from members? Councillor Harris.
Can I ask who's on the asset working group, please, and when it meets? And in the light of that, I'm going to where that I chair the CEE working group, and we put out that there is a meeting coming up just before that meeting, but it might be useful to have calendars of when working groups are meeting, because we also have a policy that allows people to attend those working groups, even if they're not a regular member of that working group.
From memory, Councillor Dickinson, you chair that group, don't you? That's how group.
Try and share it, but I'm certainly on it.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, all right.
You're, Councillor Harris, you're on that group.
Well, but it says it meets, been looking at all this, and I haven't had a.
So volunteers for the asset group are Councillor Harris, Councillor Dickinson, and Councillor Legg, I think was on it, wasn't it? You never volunteer for anything.
You're dead right.
Councillor Taylor, that's right, Councillor Taylor, yeah. So, well, you've got some work coming up because obviously the PLAP thing that we've been asking for needs to come through you before it comes to this committee, so.
Is Councillor Taylor being confirmed? Because I don't know what her work position's like.
Can you stop it?
Can I just say, if she says she'd rather not, then I will take her place, if that's all right.
Can I diarise it then with Shane? So you'll get an invite as soon as we get some draft information on the assets. Given what we have spent on this building, I think it's important that members to understand what needs doing and in what order, or whether to sell it or not. Just one point from me, you'll see on the whole, if you've read it, on the whole of the asset register, there's values against very few items, and that's the capital value that we hold now. So if it's not been replaced, there is no capital value to it. If it's been replaced and we've spent money, then that's our capital book, just the way parish and town councils work. Okay, so the recommendation is that they recommend the asset register to full council, proposed by Councillor Dickinson, seconded by Councillor Lambert. All those in favour? Okay, thank you, members. Item 12 is the draft operation workforce monitoring policy, which is Will, I think. You should have got dressed up. Welcome. Is this a fancy name for saying it's trackers? No. Is this working? Yeah. Should go. There we go.
So over recent months, operational workforce monitoring devices have been introduced across frontline services to protect lone workers and improve service delivery. This draft policy has been assembled by the Parks and Open Spaces Manager and one of the senior resort officers, drawing from best practices from other local councils. Thank you.
Questions, members? So this is going to inform hopefully officers, usage of vehicles, where they are, what they're doing, which will feed into the vehicle subgroup that we've started around vehicle usage.
And it will also support the
Councillor Harris.
the health and safety elements and the risk elements that we've been talking about.
Councillor
Thank you very much. I know this is a policy that's been in discussion for a while. But it could be a big change to some of our staff. And I'm just wondering, if we had any feedback from staff on how they feel about this policy? You can go from some of our staff who've been with us a very long time and being left to potter around in the gardens and do their thing, and they do a good job. And to have them feel like Big Brother's now watching them, I'm just concerned about how staff may be and their well-being with these sort of devices.
Charlie?
So the ones in the parks vehicles been there for them for about 6 months now. Initially it was, why you put in our vehicles, do not trust us. It was, but then once it was explained, it was for lone working, to make sure, you know, even if somebody suddenly stops, you can see if in a crash and so forth. So once it was reiterated why we were doing it, it's been positively received. I think again, with regards to the cleaners, maybe initially again, why checking up on us, but once it's a service delivery, the cleaners can see that they're tapping in and out. And again, it's now been embedded about 6-8 weeks, they've become more comfortable with it.
Is there any truth in the rumour that they're going to be fitted to members? I just got one small point, which is, and I did mention this briefly, we just kind of review employment contracts to make sure that we got that in employment contracts going forward, just so it covers everybody. Whoever uses the vehicle, they know that there will be a tracker on that vehicle. Right, so the recommendation is that we agree to adoption of the draft operational workforce monitoring policies for council with a review after 1 year. So that might help your sort of, you know, what feedback are we getting from officers and workers and gardens. Can I propose this? Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Watley. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 13 is the Seafront Cleansing Action Plan. And that is William. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. In December, the Finance and Governance Committee considered the recommendations of the member working group, which reviewed the seafront cleansing arrangements. The findings of the working group were noted by the committee, and officers were instructed to develop a costed action plan for submission to the the committee for approval. The actions can be achieved within existing budgets and officer capacity. The actions will be incorporated into the forthcoming resort team service plan for 2023 to 2024. The implementation of which will be monitored by Services Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, so this came out of the working group, key points around businesses abusing the bins and putting their rubbish in, so we've taken some action around that, and some changes to the sort of collection of recycling of waste. Just got one question, Will, which is I feel a little uncomfortable when you say it's going to come out of your existing budget. It's a capital expense. Obviously, we're trying to look at cost per year, which we wouldn't be doing this. So I'm wondering, I suppose, whether the CE group might want to contribute towards it. Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Yes, I was going to make that point. The CE group certainly welcomed this plan, and I was talking to Ben this morning, and we feel that there is some funding from our funds that we have available to support this.
Yeah, so the 1100, we're talking about spending nearly £5,000 on 10 new ones of those. So, Councillor Dickinson.
In the risk assessment or impact assessment, it says that officers will also push Dorset Council to secure a 3 to or 5 year contract. What have you managed to get?
Yeah, go on.
Currently, we have been speaking with the operations manager at Dorset Council Waste, and at the moment we're still finalising whether it's 12 months at the moment, because they believe that the costs may increase quite significantly with everything that's gone on previous year.
So if you can get a 5-year one, well done. You will really do well.
Yes, we will try our hardest.
Yeah, please try hard.
I think we need to pick that up with Matthew Piles and Red Brian in terms of strategic contracts, because there'll be waste contracts at the moment, difficult. Okay, so
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a question on the proposed new wheelie bins, 1,100 litres, which I presume are the big wheelie bins. And just wondering why you're actually looking at buying new. Have we not looked at the potential of just getting those ones resprayed to replace the locks? Could be significantly cheaper just to have them blasted and painted.
come back with an update to council.
So in the action plan as well, because we have 26 1100 rebins, our proposal of purchasing 10 new ones because they are significantly old and damaged due to the way they get lifted by the truck. So in the action plan as well, we would be looking to purchase 10 locks and 10 brush apertures, which we will retrofit onto another 10 of our 1100 rebins.
So are you saying 10 of them are beyond repair? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, I think, Councillor Lambert and certainly on the committee on my group, I can't remember who else it was. I think were you on Councillor Harris?
Yes.
We did have a, we've had a lot of discussions around this. There's been a lot of discussion around the ability of us to stop trade waste being put in these bins, around the weight of the lids, which we felt was putting the public off having to lift them. There's an issue around people with disabilities being able to lift these the lids. And certainly we felt that this was the most important issue, that we could get bins either retrofitted with lids with slots in them and having new bins with the same thing. So we're trying to cut down on this question of trade waste being put in there and the ease of ability of the public to use them. So I think this was a very important point. I think others members would feel on this why we felt this was very important. Yeah.
It does feel like we've made some progress on that. We've done the waste collection to death, I think, in terms of officer time and, coming out the other end. The fact that remains is it's significantly more expensive to clean the beach. And the contract we signed or we're about to sign with Dorset Council is the singular biggest contract that this council's ever done. It's significant. Councillor Warren.
Have we made any progress with Dorset Council monitoring these private residents and hotels and on the front? I did ask that we look into making sure that the Dorset Council have an officer to do it. I'm not even sure they have.
I'm not sure it's their job to monitor our bins, but.
No, it's.
Do you want to go over to
I do know that they don't have a specific officer, but their guys on the ground do report if they spot businesses putting their waste into our bins. And I know that some of our tenants were notices last year due to the fact that they were using our bins. In addition to that, we was working with Jacob to send all of our tenants notices, or letters, so that we can find out who their waste providers are. Again, just to reinforce that they need to be using their own bins and not ours.
And also, have they been notified of the practice of the little bins being tipped into the big bins, which they deny doing, but they do it. Before the lorry moves along, you get two guys walk along, they grab up the little bins, chuck it in the big bin, so they're only going to empty one bin, and they're the ones which are charged to us. Star bins and little bins would be.
we're not charged by weight, are we?
No, by lifts per day.
Yeah, so the less lifts, the less we charge.
Yeah, okay.
So it makes sort of sense for the roadside ones they've got to do anyway, so I assume they're trying to keep costs down by doing less lifts. Just a point on that, Charmaine, in terms of understanding where our leaseholders waste contract is. Is that in the contract?
That's something we can't review, but all of them are responsible for a waste disposal.
Yeah, I just think that they should name it, when we sign a new contract, they should name who their waste provider is, so that we've got a record of that. Okay. The recommendation is, that we allow the action plan to go ahead, so, proposed by councillor Nicholson, seconded by councillor Lambert, all those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you, members. Item 14 is food store at Weymouth Bike and Classic Car Nights. I think, Jacob, welcome. Thank you for waiting so long.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Over to you. I think you've got one statement and a proposal, yes?
Yeah. So as seen from the report put together, officers have been in discussion with the organisers of the Bike and Classic Car Night to look at ways Weymouth Town Council could collaborate to help further promote the event and way to generate income for the council. The event organiser was receptive of the idea of a food stall, with the stipulation that the food stall, the food served and the pitch operated from the everything was in keeping with the bike night event. In keeping with the previous food stall trial from last year, officers are suggesting that a similar version of the previous terms and conditions would be used to ensure that the trial operated smoothly and was able to be operational in time for the start of this year's bike night event. A major difference would be that due to the lack of electrics at the Jubilee Clock site, that we'd be asking for self-powered silent or silent running generators from the food stall operators. It must be noted though that while since we've made this public, the idea of having a food stall at the Jubilee Clock site, one of the tenants we operate with locally to that site has put some message into us. I can read that now if
Yes, please. This is the one of the huts, isn't it?
one of the huts, yeah. So the comment reads, in response to the article in Dorset Echo on the 31st of January 2023, I wanted to make contact to express my shock and disappointment reading the proposed plans to introduce a pop-up food stall on bike nights. Following on from the previous proprietor, I stayed until 8 PM on the bike nights and offered discounted offers to people attending because it was a fundraising event. This will be their 4th season operating there, and it took over the food hut in 2020. Like many other businesses, they were affected by the impact of COVID lockdown restrictions. Trade over the past 2 seasons has only improved slightly. Obviously, like many small businesses, I have concerns regarding the current financial climate and how this will impact on businesses this season. Last year's rent increase was higher than I expected, with a further increase this year, and the cost of stock, wages and utilities ever increasing. It is difficult to imagine how sustainable the business will be. Therefore, to read that Weymouth Town Council is proposing the above seems unfair. I know business is business. However, I've never been competitive or greedy. I've always been open and willing to share business opportunities. I'm just trying to make a living in a job that I enjoy and provide work and community support for others. Thank you very much.
Councillor Legg, followed by councillor Nicholson.
Two questions in relation to that, without mentioning who they are particularly, but how far away are they from the Jubilee Clock?
So they're based just north of the Jubilee Clock, by Enzo's, opposite the fireplace.
So not terribly far away.
Yeah, it's located.
And have they offered any idea of the amount of trade that they have had in the last year, for example, when there was something in opposition to them? We did a trial last year, didn't we?
Yeah, so the trial last year was based down by Alexandra Gardens, so the opposite side of things, so it would directly affect them. But I haven't heard any notes on the kind of what trade they do in these evenings, so I hate the comment.
In fact, maybe stay until 8 o'clock, give you a clue, I think. Councillor Nicholson, followed by councillor Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I thought that we, or was brought to the council the question of the pop-up vending units, the pop-up stalls down at the Alexandra Gardens, which I believe that we voted against renewing it because the feeling was that they were somewhat tacky. We had little control over what they were doing, and the feeling was that they were in direct competition with businesses that are there the whole year round, and we didn't feel that we would go ahead with the trial again this year. And I'm concerned again that, you know, these sort of things are just diluting and taking away trade from traders in the town who are prepared to risk their finance the whole year round. I'm not comfortable with these things. I think they can, you know, there's a littering issue. There's an issue around insurance. I'm just not comfortable with that. You know, if people want to have food and things, and there's plenty of provision for that in terms of the permanent businesses that are providing this in the town, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, the clock tower. Yes, that's it, yeah. Charlie, do you want to respond to that? That's because this is a charity thing as well as a.
So it is a charity event, that is held throughout the year. I think this is within the report, the date it runs from. I appreciate that it is a kiosk close to the site. However, if you drive past on a Thursday evening, you'll notice that the fish and chip shop opposite the road has a queue, you know, a very long queue, and I feel there is still demand for additional sites in this area. With regards to litter, it's something that we could ensure within the terms and conditions of the lease. I appreciate your comments regarding the previous trial, but that was at the other end. And within this document, the report, we're suggesting that any proposed new stall will be in keeping with the event. So, for example, maybe a classic car, truck that's been converted, or it's a nice looking vehicle. And that's something that, following previous feedback, will ensure that officers, in particular, would monitor that.
Members, anybody else? Councillor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. I don't agree with this. I think it's very, very little return for what could be a lot of work when you look at invoicing and officers' time to fulfil the pitch. We'd already looked in this committee, bowed down to pressure with one tenant of ours when we discussed the catering opportunities down opposite Alexander Gardens. This isn't much different in its offering. If the charity, when Weymouth approached us and said, look, we want to include a food pitch and run it ourselves, I'd probably say yes, because they see it as a demand, it's their event, and they're paying us a rent already to operate in this area. We're now looking to put additional unit in there, take a second rent off the back of a charity event, which they don't morally agree with. If Weymouth people want to run something, approach us in that. I think it also opens up a can of worms, potentially ever events, and that will then want additional food stalls on the seafront. Where do we stop? Historically, the carnival was never allowed to put food stalls on the esplanade because of conflict with full-time tenants. Will we say to the carnival, if it does return in 2024, that they can fill the seafront with food stalls? So I'm just slightly concerned that we could be setting a precedent here. We've already voted against this as a committee, not unanimously from record, but we voted as a committee against this activity on our seafront. And although in peak season, they get big numbers and big turnouts, and it is a very good event, I don't think the shoulder months of the event could cater for the demand of the additional food unit. So I would, although I always support income generation for the council because it saves the taxpayer money, have to vote against this recommendation.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not on all year round, it's only a summer activity.
It is.
And I know that Elaine does give them discounts because they are a charity, and she does stay up to go on 8 o'clock. Like you say, the fish and chip shop's always busy, but she does the burgers and everything else. So what else are you going to put in there? You're going to put a burger van in there as well, in opposition to her, or you're going to say, well, she'll probably turn around and say, well, closed at 6. And so she'll be losing some of her income, because she has built up a repertoire with them, and they all go down and have something to eat or drink.
Okay, anybody else?
One other question, Chair, very quick.
Okay.
Do we operate our kiosk, Beach Prom, on these evenings? For the additional duration of the event?
We did try it, but because it's something around the clock, we found actually that the footfall is in that area and doesn't necessarily filter down towards our kiosk at the Pond Cafe.
during peak season, they went down as far as the American Cenotaph Memorial, the amount of numbers we had. So I'd rather we say in peak season, we'll be extend our operating hours in the kiosk if we wanted to capitalise off the event.
Well, we have Will still with us, so you're okay with that, Will? Keeping the cafe open in peak season on bike night, Thursday night, I think it is.
Yeah, we could certainly try that, and through the back system, we will be able to tell how much money we've taken, whether it is worth it.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. So we're hearing some dissent here. So Councillor Lambert.
Thanks, Chair. And if we do operate our cafes, then we are still potentially taking trade away from the cafe there. So I think we should only consider opening later if there really is a demand that can't be met. And that would be a case of seeing how the build-up goes on during the summer and then the die away.
I think my response to that, Councillor Lambert, would be that we don't sell chips or burgers. Our cafe offer is different to that of we have more control over that other than somebody that we would sell a pitch to. Okay. The recommendation is that the committee agrees, we're going to take a vote on this, agrees to citing a single good quality food stall operator at the Weymouth Biking Classic Car Night event that is hosted near the Jubilee Clock site. And then the committee agrees to propose terms and conditions of the food stall and a report sent to trial. Do I have a proposer for that? Okay, so we don't have a proposal for that, so that item falls. Anybody else before I close that item? Okay. That item falls. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Joe. We're into information items. They are exactly that. Beach attraction licenses, actions from previous meetings, and the forward plan. Anybody got any burning desire to say anything about the action points? I've just got one, which is the A6 plot on the beach still remains vacant. We're going out to advert on that again. It's the least desirable plot, but we are trying to sell that. And we are still in discussions with Dorset Council around the so-called pop-up park. What do I say? Signage, which they put up, and we're still negotiating whether we'll take control of those or not, given there are significant risk and cost implications for that.
Chair, can you just explain quickly where the A6 is?
Okay, I'll defer to the expert.
It's situated opposite Alley Gardens, next to the volleyball courts, just past South Modler. It proves to be unpopular because it's set back from the main promenade, so people have to walk to the pitch to get to it, and also there's a lot of competition in that area. It was vacant last year, but it has previously been occupied.
The only other thing I've got on the forward plan, if you'll notice, we've got release of another tranche of money to paint the railings. That's the next stage, if you like, of the money that we put by. I will be asking, or have asked, as to whether the beach, the Lost Children's building, can be included in that painting, because I don't know if you've walked past it recently, but it's in a sorry state, needs painting. So I'll bring that to the next full council. Anybody else? That's item 15. So item 16 is exclusion of the press and public. Under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960, members of the public and press are required to leave the meeting due to the sensitive nature of the items next to be considered relating to sundry debtors and also there's some competitive issues there. So can I propose to that, please? Councillor Frost, seconded by Councillor Nickinson. All those in favour of exclusion? That is, yeah, 9. Those against? 1. Any abstentions? No. 9 and 1.